What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Fall Obsession podcast. Thank you guys for listening. My name is Sam Thrash. I'm your show host, and I appreciate you guys pressing play on another one of our episodes. This was a really fun one to put together. About a month ago, a little over a month ago, in April of 2025, we had a turkey slash hog slash coyote Texas hunt down here on the property that we call Texas Dirt. And we had some of our Fall Obsession team members join us for that hunt. Myself and my son were out there. Nick Powell, our production director, who's local down here and hunts on Texas Dirt with me, he was out there with us. Chad Jones, our Southern Regional Coordinator, Carter Evans, one of our brand ambassadors. Those are both Texas boys that came out and hunted with us. And then we had two guys on our team from out of state come all the way down to Texas for a spring hunt like this. Drew, our vice president from Minnesota, flew down for this hunt. And then Kess, one of our staff members from Indiana, he drove down for this hunt. It was a 3-day weekend that we had down here in Texas, just chasing some turkeys. We were hoping to get in on some hogs and some coyotes as well, but they were not really playing the game. They didn't read the script, so we didn't really have any good opportunities at them. But the turkeys were moving, and it was a fun weekend for these guys, myself included, chasing some turkeys. So we got the band back together for this podcast episode to recap the weekend, recap the hunt, and just kind of go back through some of the high moments, the low moments, and all that kind of stuff. So the most people we've ever had on a podcast at one time as well. We got 6 guys, counting myself, on here. So a little bit working out some kinks as far as navigating that many people in the virtual sense, for this recording and everything. So hang with me for that, but it turned out really good, and I hope you guys enjoy this conversation recapping some Texas turkey hunting. While we're on the subject of turkeys, and before we get the conversation going here on the podcast, I want to point you guys in the direction of fallobsession.com, specifically for our 2025 turkey hunt competition, or turkey hunt contest. This is awesome, guys, and we want you guys to be a part of it. You can enter the bird that you killed this year in the contest for a chance to win cash money. We have cash pots that grow every time somebody signs up for the contest. We also have different gear, gift cards, all sorts of cool stuff that are involved in being awarded to the top 3 finishers of the contest. And then we have 2 different sweepstakes that are running alongside of this competition, and you can get tickets for that sweepstakes at registration. But those 2 sweepstakes, one of them is a gear sweepstakes where we will be giving away gear from Wiley X Eyewear, VP Archery, putting in some broadheads in the loop, and then Hoot Camo. They got some stuff in there for you guys. We're giving away some of that stuff to different winners, different ticket holders for that sweepstakes. And then the second one is for one ticket holder to take home a $9,000 safari package from News on Safaris. So guys, get in on the 2025 turkey hunt competition. Go to fallobsession.com/hunt-competition. That's where you can sign up, where you can learn more, where you can see how scoring works, and all the details are right there for you guys. If you forget the exact web page, just go to fallobsession.com and you guys will be able to find it from there. Hope to see you guys competing this year. You have until June 8th, 2025 to enter your turkey. Be sure that you guys are tuned in and following Fall Obsession on all the major social media platforms. Be sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel. We have all sorts of different content that's hitting that YouTube channel. We produce different shows and hunting films and everything here at Fall Obsession. We are a hunting and outdoor media production company, so that's our jam. And if you like watching the podcast videos and not just listening to the audio, we put those podcast videos up on our YouTube channel on Thursdays, so you guys can catch them over there. And then make sure that you guys go and check out Carbon TV if you haven't already. Carbon TV is like Netflix for hunting, except it's free. You don't even have to put in any information or anything like that. You can just start streaming immediately from your phone, your computer, your smart TV, whatever it might be. We at Fall Obsession produce 4 different shows that you will find on Carbon TV. The first one is this podcast. It streams on there. We also have our staff-inspired video podcast series that we call Couch Chats. That's on Carbon TV. And then we have 2 different hunting shows, Texas Dirt and Midwest Mindset. Again, all of those can be found on the Carbon TV app. Go start streaming today. Stay tuned during the episode for some discount codes from our partners and sponsors of the show. And with that, we're taking it over to the conversation with these guys, talking about some Texas turkeys. You guys are listening to another Fall Obsession podcast.
Oh, you got her, dude. She's down.
Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
Welcome back, folks, to another Fall Obsession podcast. I am here with the largest group of people that we have had on the show at one time. I'm pretty stoked. All fellas from the Fall Obsession organization here. We got Drew from Minnesota, Nick, Carter, Chad. They're down here in Texas with me, and then Kess is up there in Indiana. This is the group that we got together a few weekends ago for a Texas turkey hunt on Texas dirt down here. Guys, everybody all at once. I don't care, but, thank you all for joining me on the podcast. Thanks for coming and hunting Texas. Appreciate you guys joining me. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having us, man.
Absolutely.
Great time.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Sam.
Absolutely. So I'm looking forward to this, and it's going to be interesting how it plays out on a podcast with it being virtual and everything, and hopefully we're not all talking over each other, throughout the episode, but I'll try to keep it organized. But I wanted to start off by just kind of going through and everybody talking about their expectations going into this hunt. And I know some of us here have hunted Texas before. Nick has obviously hunted Texas dirt specifically before, but I'll start with the non-residents. I'll start with you, Drew. Like, All right. I'll put you in the hot seat first. What was your thoughts coming down here to hunt turkeys in Texas in April?
Well, I gotta say, I was maybe a little bit disillusioned by our last Texas trip, where we were on a pretty target-rich environment at that time.
Yeah.
Saw a lot of things that time, so I was really expecting to see, a lot of animals, a lot of different things. That's kind of where I was at looking into it.
Gotcha. And then we just stuck you out there in the mesquite brush and said, have at it. But no, that's awesome. Kess, what about you, man? What were your expectations? Was this your first time coming to Texas to hunt? I don't recall.
No, actually. So I've been down in Texas twice now with Fall Obsession when we had our first annual sandhill crane hunt, and then I went back the very next year to hunt cranes again. That was down in Lubbock. This is my first time down there, obviously, to kind of meet some of the other guys and hunt turkeys and get after some hogs too. But my expectation in it, kind of walking into it, I fully expected to just be hunting hogs the whole time. We don't get much of them up here, obviously, so I was just ready to go down there and start slaughtering them. I really didn't expect to do a whole lot of turkey hunting. But then when we got there and you kind of broke the news that the cameras and the feeders really didn't have a whole lot of hog activity on them with all the rain that kind of pushed through. So it kind of turned into a turkey hunt, which was kind of completely backwards of what I expected walking down there, but it was a good time, more or less. The drive wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. I know we talked about that a little bit, but I triggered through that.
Man, speak for yourself. That would wear on me for sure. That's a haul coming from Indiana in a car.
Yep.
Golly. Carter, I'm going to go to you and ask you what your thoughts were going into it, because while you are from Texas and you have hunted Texas, you're a newer member of the Fall Obsession team, so you're coming out here to spend a couple of hunts with a group of guys you've never met before in this sense. So what were your thoughts coming into it?
I was excited for it. I've hunted turkeys down here before, mostly on private land, and so I kind of knew what to expect in terms of, based on what you were telling us. I knew there probably were going to be birds, but as all you guys, anyone that hunts turkeys know, there being birds is pretty far from a sure thing of someone shooting a bird, because they're the way they are. So I figured we definitely, with the amount of people we had down there, we would definitely see birds and have opportunities. But I didn't foresee the difficulty of getting them to come 20 yards closer than where they were. And that's something that, the more I turkey hunt, the more I experience. Like just having them 70 yards away might as well be 500 yards. So, but as far as the group of guys, everyone was really nice. I had a great time. It was good to meet everybody. Everyone's a lot more talkative in person than they are on the weekly staff calls. I'll say that.
Yeah, it's when you get in a Zoom setting like this, you can, especially when it's for a meeting, right? You can kind of coast without having to say a whole lot. I think we're all used to that in some capacity at this point in the day and age we live in. So yeah, you get some guys in camp, man, and yeah, some some food starts coming out, some drinks start flowing, and yeah, guys loosen up and start having a good time. So it's always fun.
Cat starts telling Walmart stories.
Yeah. Oh, we heard some stories for sure. Speaking of stories, the storyteller, Chad. what were your expectations coming into it, brother?
Man, for me, it was kind of one of those things, just getting out there and meeting, all of you guys. And to me, that's one of the funnest things about sharing camp with people, is just getting to know them on a personal level. Because it's one thing to, sit on these calls or, on the phone or whatever with guys, but to sit down and truly get to know them, that's one of the things I like the most. Just, making new friendships and learning from each other, because obviously some guys that live up north, their hunting style or maybe how they grew up, how they got into hunting, maybe completely different than mine. So it's just intriguing to me to listen to that. But in terms of the hunt itself, I've turkey hunted long enough to know that they expect the unexpected. It's kind of to Carter's point, when the birds get hung up, because sometimes that's situational. I learned from you guys, I can just get a 30-06 and problem solved. And just kidding. I'm kidding.
And clip and Instagram.
Yeah. And so,
It's not legal advice.
Yeah. So, it's one of those things to where I kind of expected a little bit of that. It's all a timing thing to how responsive they are. And, we happen to hit a window where, most of them were henned up and they didn't want to play the game quite as much as we would expect them to, but that's just part of it, but had a great time, man. I really appreciate you having us out there for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was a good time. Before I give it to you, Nick, and I'll explain why here in a second, but kind of to talk about what Kess was talking about, mentioning that his expectation was to kind of come down here and, hunt hogs and predators and that kind of stuff. And it quickly was a heavy focus on turkey hunting, right? Nick and I being out here, we hadn't seen these numbers of turkeys until this season. This was, the fourth year on the place, and like compared to the first year's night and day difference. And I know when originally I kind of pitched it to Nick on, hey, what if we have some guys out and, do like a kind of a hog, coyote, turkey combo, whatever you can get out of those three type deal. I honestly was thinking there might be more hog action than there was as well, but it definitely shaked out the other way. And man, I mean, I've never seen turkeys like this on our place. And with that, I want to go to Nick and kind of let Nick take us into the weekend, because Nick was the first one to hunt out there this weekend, just because of how his schedule lined up. He had to cut out early, so he started early. So I'll turn it over to you, man, and let you talk about your first morning and your thoughts going into the weekend.
Yeah, so like similar to what you said, Sam, I was pretty pumped because a lot of the pictures that we were getting were coming on our cameras. And just like you said, we haven't seen turkeys like this at all since we've been out there. And so going into the weekend, and this is honestly my first time like being a host of anybody at really anywhere that I've ever hunted. And so it seemed like the pressure was on a lot, having guys out there. You just want the animals to cooperate and guys to have a good time. And I know, unfortunately, for the majority of us, the animals didn't cooperate, but we did have some success and good times were had as well. So that was good. But to start off the weekend,
Hey guys, sorry to cut y'all off from the conversation. We'll get back to it in just a second, but first I want to tell you guys about Hoot Camo. Hoot Camo is one of the best camouflage brands out there for the blue-collar hunter. The prices, you can't beat them. The patterns are extremely versatile. They work in so many different environments. I have worn Hoot Camo hunting whitetails, hogs, and turkeys down here in the hardwoods, the mesquites, the scrub brush of Texas. I've worn it in the flatland plains of eastern Colorado hunting mule deer. I've even worn it in the mountains of central Idaho hunting elk. It works in so many different places. It is extremely high quality gear, extremely warm, holds up well against the elements. You cannot beat it. Go to hootcamo.com, use the code FallObsession15 on your next order, no matter how big or small it is, and check out everything that Hoot Camo has on there for you guys.
I went out there. It was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, basically. Everybody came out Friday, and I got to hunt Friday morning, and I woke up super early, because I live 3 hours away from Texas Dirt, and so I woke up, I think it was like 2:30 in the morning, so I could get there by sunrise. And because we have gotten several pictures of turkeys, I'm sure everybody, all of our listeners have seen them on our social medias. We posted several videos of them, but we've gotten several videos and pictures of turkeys in one spot that particularly that I knew I wanted to hunt. And I wasn't trying to I don't want it to sound like I was trying to get out there early because I wanted to get my bird and before any of you other guys got it.
We know the truth. We know the truth.
I don't want it to sound like that because that wasn't it. I was planning on going out there anyways, and then Sam just happened to pick this weekend to host this.
Yeah, I ruined it. I'm the one that ruined it.
It was Sam's fault. No, that's not it either. But no, so I wanted to hunt this spot. I knew exactly where they were going to be, and there's enough turkeys to go around for all of us. I knew that was a fact. So I picked this spot, set up behind this tree, and actually didn't have a tree picked out beforehand. The spot I actually had picked out had overgrown a whole lot, and so when I got there that morning, I wasn't able to actually sit there. So I had to kind of improvise a little bit, and in the distance, I hear turkeys gobbling in the roost. Sun's coming up, like it's about to be on. And then, so I find a tree, luckily, where I knew that they were going to come through at. And so usually they were coming through at about 8:30, and we'd get pictures of them strutted up on camera, like right at 8:30 every single morning, just about. And so I set up just off where I knew they were coming through, and they had come through about an hour early. So it was about 7:30 instead of 8:30, and I was not prepared for them to come through. A couple of hens start coming through start trotting through the grass, and my leg I'm sitting on the ground on a tree, and my leg is flat, and my gun's on top of my leg. And so I'm not prepared for them at all. And so the hens come through, probably about a dozen hens come through, and 2 jakes follow them. And then here comes the gobbler that I shot behind the 2 jakes, and he stops for some reason. I have no idea why, but he stops is the only one that stops where he can see me. And so he stops and is strutting and spitting and all kinds of stuff, really putting on a show. And he does a 360 where he faces the other way. So I start getting my gun up real slow because the hens are starting to come back this way. And so I'm getting my gun up real slow. And then as soon as it hits my shoulder, he eyeballs me and starts lifting his head up from his strut. And as soon as he does that, I throw my gun up there and I blast him, and game over right there. So to start the weekend like that, my hopes are way high for how the weekend was supposed to go.
Oh yeah. Well, and then so that spot, like that whole area, we kind of referred to it as the bluff, and you call it the bluff stand. But
yep.
That whole area down there, we had 2 spots that were pretty decently hot, and that was one of them for sure. And that I think was it Kess and Carter and Chad that were down there that evening,
Yeah.
or did we
The
split up more?
First evening, it was
It was me and Kess and Chad.
Himself, yep.
Okay.
And then Carter and I headed back out there next morning.
I gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so we had two spots, that spot and then another one that we call Rocky Top, one of my dad and I stands that were doing all right as far as showing us consistent pictures of the turkeys and everything. And you know, I'm the first one to admit, like, I would be confident that most of y'all here probably have more turkey hunting experience than me. I dabble, but I don't do a whole lot from year to year, and there's been plenty of springs where I haven't even done it at all. That was the thing that I was trying to figure out is, okay, when do we call it every morning, right? Because like we were getting pictures, Nick and I, 12 noon, 1 o'clock, those birds were still out and moving around. And that was one of the biggest struggles for me, was figuring out, okay, how again, from the host standpoint too, how long should I tell these guys that they need to sit there, because I want people to enjoy their experience, kind of like what Nick was saying. I'll echo those feelings as well, because you want people to have success. But yeah, they're crazy animals, man.
Absolutely.
So I'll go to, and I'm kind of just going around here and trying to keep us on track and everything. And but Drew, we'll go back to you, and I want to hear your thoughts when you're actually getting out there for that first hunt, that first evening, and everything. What you're looking at, what you saw, how all that went down.
Yeah. So first night out, taking me out to this stand. I guess I'd probably describe it as like the furthest corner away from camp that you could get on the property. Kind of down in a little, I don't know if you call it creek valley or what you'd call that, kind of a lower depression sort of area. Pretty thick brush around, and like you had said, just kind of had me set up in more or less just a big bush in a blind there. Kind of first thoughts there when I sat down was, man, Texas is really hot compared to Minnesota at that time of year. I was definitely overdressed and very hot. Glad I had water with me. But then other than that, just really excited to be out hunting again. It was my first trip out. Haven't really talked about it much, but suffered a really bad shoulder injury last year in Montana on an elk hunt. Ended up having surgery for that. Did not even hunt once last year, so took an entire season off. So it was my first time, and really just a really good opportunity for me to kind of reconnect with hunting, get back into it. Kind of release some of that emotional stuff that had built up after not hunting for a year. And so for me, it was less about killing a turkey and more about like getting back out in the woods and joining the group of people.
That's awesome, man. I love that you shared that on here, because that at the end of the day, and even as Chad talked about also, at the beginning, just being able to come out and connect with the guys and meet people, and kind of have that fellowship and brotherhood aspect in camp and everything. Like there's so many more pieces to hunting than just putting a bird on the ground or a pig on the ground, whatever it might be. And yeah, I definitely feel like that was shining through with this group over the course of this weekend for sure. So it was awesome. But
and I'll tell you, I've never hunted Rios either, so obviously I didn't get the chance to put a bird down. But just seeing that first gobbler walk in and just the different colors that they expose in comparison to what I'm used to up here in Indiana, I was like, oh my God, that's beautiful. So that right there, that first image was enough for me. That second morning we were out there, I was like, okay, I sealed the deal. I ain't got to punch a tag. I'm happy.
Yeah. So I know that second morning, like that morning was the morning for sure. That was when some stuff happened. And yep. I think it was Kess, was it you and Carter that were down on the bluff together?
Yep.
Yeah. I remember you talking to me in camp about how just picture perfect. I forget your exact words. It was something along those lines, but how that morning was. So tell our listeners a little bit about that and what you experienced on the bluff that morning, Saturday morning.
Well, it all started out that that evening prior to that Friday night when Chad and Nick and myself were out there. Nick and Chad were a little bit closer to this neighboring field. They obviously got the opportunity to watch these gobblers roost up on the neighboring property. So we knew exactly where the birds were walking into the morning. We knew where we needed to set up. We knew there was quite a few hens with them, so it was going to be difficult to pull them off of those hens. Like Chad was saying, they were already henned up, so you knew it was going to be a game to play, but it was going to be a fun one,
Yeah.
So Carter and I get set up over there, and obviously you're in the dark. You're kind of going back and forth on what this setup looks like and where we should be. And we couldn't have painted a more perfect picture. We had that first hen that came off the roost, had one of the most beautiful gobblers I've ever seen right with her, probably one of the bigger ones out there in that field. And she came in on a string right to, within 20 yards of our decoys where we needed her. Unfortunately, Carter was set up a little bit farther away. He had a better angle than I did, but that Tom hung up at probably 70 yards for him.
70, and he was behind a big mesquite bush too, so even if I had some fancy TSS shell, probably wasn't going to happen.
I had him at probably 50 yards, and I had the fancy TSS, I guess, as Carter would say. But that bush right there, and I'll tell you, Texas is a completely different environment as comparison to hunting Indiana. But there was just no shot on him. It wasn't possible. But it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen right there up close, and there's just nothing you can do about it to change the game at that point. But they came in on a string, beautiful morning, just you know how it is when they're on a hen, they ain't gonna part from it.
Oh yeah.
So the funnier thing was though, y'all got cattle on the property down there. That evening when we were back out there, we had what I would imagine to say would be the same Tom come back through, and he was still with another hen, and that hen had come up, and it was on a string headed towards the other side where Carter was sitting, and Carter may not have been out there that evening, were you?
Oh, no, this happened in that morning, like right after the big one came in and then ran off. We had another one come in.
Whenever it was, there was a cow that kind of stuck its head up and walked and right on the trail that bird was heading down, and kind of sat there and stared at the bird, and the bird did a 180 and went the other way. And I was like, oh my, did a cow really just screw up our hunt, dude? That thing was coming in on a string. You could have wrangled it up with your hand. There is no way. Oh, it was hilarious. But you can't paint a more beautiful picture than that.
Hey folks, if you guys are in the North Texas area like I am, then you need to go to Bear River Archery and Pro Shop in Van Alstyne, Texas. Justin and the guys up there have an incredible operation set up. They will take great care of you and all of your archery needs. They are the official bow shop in North Texas of Fall Obsession. I love going there, and I'm picky. If you guys know me, I am very selective on who I let work on my bow. I will let Justin work on my bow. They do great stuff. Check out Bear River Archery and let them know that Fall Obsession sent you.
I was going to say, I'm not unfamiliar with cows ruining hunts.
Yep. I was going to say the same thing. I think Andy and I experienced the same issue on our first hunt down in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
that and zebras.
Okay, Drew.
Yeah, that and zebras, yep.
Drew, I was going to say, Drew opened the door. I'm going to detour from this Texas hunt real quick, and I don't know if you guys know the video. The video's on the YouTube channel. It's one of our old videos from like 2019. But, yeah, Drew and Andy, their very first hunt in Texas was on. Drew spoke earlier of the target-rich environment. We had a chance to do a management hunt for a private landowner down in Central Texas, and they didn't know that, and I didn't know that there were exotics on the place, specifically zebras. So their very first sit in Texas, they get these zebras walking out in front of them. I'll let Drew talk about it. He was there, but
yeah. I'll be honest. I had heard from the landowner the night before that there were zebras on the place. He had mentioned that they had a herd of about 5 free-range zebras that were running around the place. We were given very specific instructions not to shoot the zebras. I didn't share that information with Andy, and so Andy and I were sitting there in the morning and watching all these deer, and he's in the picture or in the video. If you pull it up, we'll probably put a link in the video description below.
I'll stick it in here.
Yeah, Andy's there eating a banana, and cameras are rolling, and all of a sudden the zebra walks by at 20 yards, just broadside. And Andy looked like he had seen a ghost. Like he could not believe that there was a zebra walking in front of him at 20 yards. And I honestly couldn't believe it either, but I at least had the idea that they might be around. Had I not been prepared, that I probably would have been just as dumbfounded as he was.
It was so funny. I was in camp because I was hosting on that hunt, and I had spent the morning running everybody around, and ended up coming back to camp. I didn't hunt that morning, and yeah, I get a text from Drew. Do you know that there's zebras on this place? Right after sunup, and I'm like, do not shoot a zebra. Please do not shoot a zebra.
Hey,
you never know what you're going to see down here.
Yeah, that's true.
If a zebra showed up in front of you guys, Kess, I would have a lot more questions, though. That'd be a first for sure out there. So,
No, we didn't.
And I would say, shoot it.
yeah.
Say, I'd be texting you immediately, looking for permission to shoot a zebra.
Yeah, it'd bring me flashbacks probably, but. So we're talking about morning number 2, and I'm gonna punt it to Chad because Chad also saw some action in a different location that morning. So let's hear about it, man.
well, after the guys booted me out of the bluff, which is where all the turkeys were,
Quit that.
I was left-
Now.
I was left with the only stand. I don't even know what was the stand called that I even went to.
That was the Rocky Top one. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So obviously, dropped everybody off. We drive in. It's still dark. Sam just drops me out. It's like, head that way. You can't miss it. You'll go down and see the stand. And so I go down there. There's no stand. So I see the feeder, and I'm looking all around. I'm thinking, okay, there's got to be a stand here somewhere, and realize that there's not a stand. And so, and for anyone that's unfamiliar with this area in Texas, it's basically all just mesquite trees and cactus. So I'm looking around in the dark, trying to figure out a spot to sit because obviously turkey's eyesight's incredible. So I've got to figure out a way to be really concealed there. So I found it was really kind of a patch of grass and cactus on a fence row. So I set up against the fence post, and then I didn't really have quite enough cover around me. So there was a cedar tree, I don't know, probably 40 yards away. So I went and broke off a bunch of cedar limbs and basically hung them in the branches of the mesquite tree. So it basically kind of created a wall around me. And then I just left a shooting lane out, like down the road and out towards kind of where the feeder area was. And anyway, so then I went out, set up my decoy. I had a Jake and a hen decoy that I set out in front of me. And so sat there and waited till sun come up. And of course, it's dead silent. Like I don't even hear like turkeys like off in the distance or anything. And so I wait a little bit. Sun comes up, and I start yelping some, and probably about 10 minutes goes by, and 2 young Jakes come in. They look around, they go down to the feeder, they feed a little bit, and then off they go. Well, then 2 hens, they come in probably 5 minutes after them. They come in and eat for a while at the feeder, and then they finally mill around, work their way off. And then 2 more Jakes had come in, or it was the same 2 from before. I'm not sure. I mean, they were real young, so it's hard to tell. But anyway, come back from kind of from the same area that these others are, like this big, I don't know, high line, pipeline, something. And they come in. Well, they see my decoys, and both Jakes just beeline over to them and start just whooping my decoy. And he ends up like just spurring it and stomping on it, and basically breaks it off the post. And so it's laying on the ground. He's like hovering over it. And so I was like, well, this isn't going to work, because obviously I wasn't going to shoot him or shoot them. And so I get up, run them off, and go reset up my decoy, go sit back down, and I start calling a little bit more. And then this Tom comes rolling in by himself, and he sees the decoy. And same deal, he just starts bowing up, strutting, running straight over to it, and I popped him right in between the Tom and my hen decoy. He's laying on the ground, and that was when of course, I told you guys I missed whenever I heard the gunshot.
Yeah. We get a text from this joker, and he's like, I missed. No way, man. There ain't no way you miss.
Y'all definitely give me crap if I miss with a shotgun.
Absolutely.
I mean a 30-06. So,
wink, wink.
So it was. I mean, dude, it's a huge bird. Ended up having a 9.5 inch beard. His beautiful bird, man. It was a good morning. Got a little windy, got a little hot. So obviously the rest of the guys were staying out, trying to get a bird down. And so I go back to camp, get that bird all, prepped. And so then while I'm sitting there at camp, kind of waiting for everybody else to come rolling through, there's another Tom at camp just gobbling his head off. And I was like, of course, go figure. But yeah, it was awesome. But you just never know what you get, because the hens came in and there was no birds, there was no Toms or Jakes with them, and then the Tom was by himself, and he was probably looking for some, but the I guess it was the evening before, whenever we were out there with Nick and Carter and Kess, there was probably 2 Toms that I for sure saw, because they were fighting each other. They probably had, close to 15 hens out in the neighbor's field with them, and they weren't coming to a call to save our life. I mean, they were with those ladies, and they weren't budging. So you just never know what you're going to get, and that's why I didn't really know if calling was going to work or not. But I thought, I'm going to call. I'll have the decoys. So I kind of set them right at the edge of this old road. So I thought at least if the turkeys are down this road and they see the decoys, even if they don't hear me calling or the timing's not right, they might at least visually see them and come in. And I just got lucky, really. It's what a lot of it comes down to. But it was fun. Had a good time.
Yeah, so much for everybody kicking you out of the bluff.
I know.
What's funny is I was sitting in the Rocky Top spot the first evening we were there, and I didn't, by happenstance, just didn't see any birds. And we're back at camp, and we're talking about spots for the next day. And Sam goes, well, you can go back to the same spot you were at tonight, or you can go to this bluff where everybody else was, where we saw like 7 turkeys. In my mind, I'm like, well, boy, this is a hard decision. I went down to the bluff with everybody else, and Chad shoots a bird out of my spot.
Yeah, we're trying to share the love, and like, okay, we got the bluff, which is just on fire. Like, you're gonna see turkeys if you go there, more than likely. It's like we'll try to share the love a little bit, and then Chad goes somewhere else and whacks a bird.
Well, and that was the whole reason that I volunteered to not go to the bluff, because Carter had to leave to go to the concert, and so I was like, well, dude, take this spot. It's obviously covered up with birds. It's just gotta get them in front of you, And they just didn't want to cooperate. So
yeah, but you can't let an opportunity like that slip away from you, for sure. So man, I'm pumped that you got one. That's awesome, and to have the whole thing with the Jakes and then them coming after your decoys and all that on top of it, man, that makes for a cool experience for sure.
Yeah, it was neat.
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite part of the whole story, Willow, was the 60 seconds between the first text and the second text that said, just kidding. I don't miss.
Yeah. Our text thread is like, we all hear the shot. Like, we're close enough that we hear the shot ring out. We know which direction it came from. We know it came from Chad. So everybody's like, Chad, what'd you get? And then I missed. And everybody.
I'm telling you right now, if I really would have missed, I would have told you I was shooting at a coyote or something, because I would not admit that I missed at 20 yards with a shotgun.
Yeah, I had a coyote at 200 yards, and I missed him with the 30-06. So, No, it was awesome. You're making me sound like a bad hunt host, like I just dropped you in the middle of the woods and told you to go find a spot. I thought that I had told everybody that there wasn't a blind, so if I missed that detail with you, I apologize. I didn't realize
That's
that.
cool.
But...
I only walked around for an hour in the dark. No, I'm totally kidding. It wasn't bad.
Yeah, that was one of the spots I try to make my ground blinds last. Drew can attest to that. One of the blinds he sat in had a big old tear in one of the sides, but yeah, that blind that used to be at that rocky top spot, it's last year was its last year, so it's done. That's why there wasn't one there, but that's how it goes sometimes down here. Blue collar problems, got to make your stuff last. So.
Yeah, Chad, Sam actually told me, he's from Texas. He'll figure it out.
Yeah, he'll figure it out.
Yeah, Nick had to leave the night before, so he's like, "Yeah, where'd you put everybody?" I was like, "I just dropped Chad off on the road. He'll kill a bird. He'll come back with a turkey."
To walk west.
Yeah. You see the North Star? Just walk that way.
Yeah. So for you non-resident guys, from then at that point, like the grind Saturday evening, Sunday morning turned into fighting the heat and trying to get you guys on something. So I'll kick it over to you guys and let y'all take us through the rest of the remaining events of the weekend, trying to get y'all on some birds.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I saw birds almost every sit. But
hey guys, Trophy Edits is a Fall Obsession podcast partner. We all have mounts on our walls that represent a significant moment, a significant harvest in the woods for each and every one of us, and photographs can do the same. I'm sure you guys have pictures from years past, hunting with loved ones or being in the woods with family and friends that also represent those big moments. And what Trophy Edits does is they showcase those moments for you guys. Just absolutely make your pictures explode and to the level that you guys can put them on the wall and also have that memory forever represented in your home, your office, your man cave, whatever it might be. Give Trophy Edits a chance to do the work for you guys. And again, they make those pictures just absolutely awesome with their professional team of editors. So go to Trophy Edits website. The link is in the podcast description. That lets them know that you guys came from us, and use the code FALLOBSESSION at checkout to save you guys some money.
In all honesty, I haven't done a lot of turkey hunting. I had turkeys walking by me at 5 and 10 yards, kind of asking questions later that I probably should have asked questions earlier, but had what I would call a very immature Jake, right? Had just like the smallest button of a beard, to the point where I thought it was actually just a hen walking by. Had no colors, wasn't strutting, wasn't doing any of the stuff where you'd be like, oh, that's a turkey I can shoot. Well, asking questions later, found out it's a Jake. I probably could have shot that one. But like I said, no, I was more there just to like get the experience of it. I'm pretty sure that same turkey came back at least 5 different times to that feeder that I was at down in that bottoms. So it's not that I didn't have the chance to shoot that one. I just, in all honesty, just passed it up. So I had a great time sitting there watching birds, saw a few deer, never saw a pig. But yeah, no, I'd say my hunt was really good. Yeah, I guess that kind of wraps up my like Sunday evening or Saturday evening, Sunday morning for the most part.
Well, and the other detail with you that we haven't mentioned yet, I don't think, is that you were bow hunting, like primarily.
Yeah, I was.
Just due to your shoulder recovery and everything that came with that. So that was an additional element, that kind of puts you in some different spots than the rest of the guys, trying to keep you concealed in blinds and that kind of stuff, and then trying to brush you in when we could, like on that last morning and everything. So that was another element. And man, I think everybody on here will attest to bow hunting turkeys is a different ball game, trying to get drawn back on those suckers. So kudos to you, man, for sticking to that. But
yeah, it was and just even add some more challenges to that and maybe explain some of the reasons why I wasn't taking some of those shots. But I'd actually just set up my new bow the day before I flew out. I'd been training, doing all my physical therapy, doing all the stuff to get ready for archery hunting. Hadn't actually drawn back a bow until 2 days before the hunt, so didn't really know if I was going to be able to even participate or just kind of like go and hang out with everybody. Really only had the bow dialed into 20 yards, so I was, had to be close to the feeder, had to be kind of like right on top of the action. So, I was really looking for that perfect opportunity. That being said, I was ecstatic that I could draw back a 50-pound bow. Had to dial it back from 70, but could still draw it. And was stoked that I had the bow sighted in, and got to use the new Prime Archery. What is it, the Rev X2 that we're shooting this year, and got to try that out. So that was awesome. Loved it. Loved that portion of it. But like you'd mentioned, a little bit more of a challenge than Chad's 30-06.
If our listeners hadn't picked up on it, the 30-06 is an inside joke from hunting camp. That's the good thing about hunting camp. But we oh yeah, one of the many stories. We and one thing that I'll mention too, on the last morning when I went to go pick up Drew, we're texting as far as, hey, when you ready to come out? Okay, I'm ready, or come get me in, I forget what it was, come get me in 10 minutes, whatever you sent. And so I go pulling up, and I felt like I was just a little bit early, but I was like, man, I'll slip down there and like help him bring his stuff out and everything. Well, Drew had already gotten out of his little brushed in setup that we had, and he had come up the hill a different spot than I went down. So I'm walking down, I'm like peeking around, and I'm trying to see if he's still in there, and I'm like, I literally thought, I'm like, dude, that hoot camo is doing some work right now, because I cannot see Drew sitting right there where I put him. And then eventually got close, and I was like, all right, he ain't in there. There ain't no way. So, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and like you said, that bluff stand that you guys had mentioned had been hot. Turkeys all over the place. So that last morning, had the opportunity to sit there myself. Like you mentioned, we had brushed in a spot probably 20 yards from the feeder. I heard turkeys all morning. There were turkeys gobbling. I probably had them come into at the closest from the direction I thought they were going to come, from that field you guys have been discussing. They probably came within 40 yards. And then they just kind of hung up, didn't come any closer. And then as I was sitting there, they actually kind of pulled an end around and snuck in on me from the other side. Wasn't expecting that at all. Was completely unprepared because, I wasn't expecting them to come from that direction. All the trail camera videos had showed them coming in the other way. And so I got caught off guard. So I did have turkeys come in on me that morning. It was a group of jakes. They came to probably 25, 30 yards. But they were, behind my back shoulder. I had no chance of turning and drawing and getting set up on them. And they were able to pick me out just sitting out in the open like that. But hadn't really brushed in that spot behind me. Didn't think they were going to come in from that direction. And so, I got to see turkeys. I got to see them around. Didn't really have a good shot at them.
That's one thing that's just crazy is, like, I already spoke earlier on how different it is from deer hunting as far as they're moving, later into the day, into the early afternoon, that kind of stuff. It's not a traditional, morning sit, evening sit, like, some places are and everything like that. And, but then they just, man, it's like they're just going wherever they want, within a certain, within reason, right? And then I've in my own research and reading and listening to other people, I've heard them talk about how, a tom can hear, a call in a certain area, but he's got hens, and he'll go and check it out like hours later, or something like that. I've heard of them doing that and everything, and it's just it's crazy that just how they're literally their little brains work and everything. So it's crazy that a pea-sized brain can drive us humans crazy. So
yeah. Speaking of driving us crazy, that text message that I got Monday morning then after I was back at home.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Of that exact same feeder that I'd been sitting 15 yards from, and there was a tom strutting for, I don't know, you sent me a bunch of pictures. It must have been over a half an hour that thing was just hanging around the feeder that day. So, just like you said, hunting's hunting, and you never know what they're going to do, and a little bit of frustration that they were there the day after, and yeah.
Yeah, man, that's how it goes sometimes. Kess, what about you, man? Last couple hunts, grinding it out.
I truthfully can't complain at all. I mean, I've seen birds on every single sit. I'd say the biggest thing I knew better was, we get the same thing back home. You're going to hear those birds off the roost. You're going to hear them early in the morning. But once that silence kind of kicks in, you just need to sit and be patient. And I'd say that's one of the things I did not excel in on our trip down to Texas is I knew better when some folks were like, all right, we're, heading back up to camp. I was like, no, I know I'm going to sit where I need to sit right here for the next 3 hours. I don't need to do any calling. I'll just shut up and blind sit. And I know they're going to be coming back through. And that's where, shout out to Reveal on this one. No sooner than I decided, I'm over this, packed up my stuff and headed back to take a nap in a 100-degree camper that Sam and Nick are over there. Yeah, Sam's just diddling on his phone, looking at all the pictures on the Reveal. He's like, there's a bird, there's a bird, there's a bird. And then Nick is already gone from camp and sends a text to the group chat, and he's like, oh, hey, Kess, there's a Tom down there at the bluff stand. And I'm like, see, I knew it. I should have just stayed put. I mean, it's the name of the game up here, too. I've been around it 100 times, so I know better. I'm just not a very patient person, and that's kind of where my pain ends up setting in. But
yeah,
I think a large part of me was also on the side of the fact that I knew how much land was truthfully there. And I know we had talked a lot about different hunting strategies walking into this, whether guys wanted to sit stagnant or if they wanted to run and gun and do some calling and stuff. And you get into those later afternoons, you're not going to hear nearly as many of those birds gobbling. But if you do get them to gobble, they're sold on you kind of thing. So that thought was always back in my head was, do I need to be running and gunning? Do I need to be walking and calling and doing that kind of thing? Or should I just sit here where I know the birds are going to end up passing through? And then I happened to look down and I seen a cactus kind of poking me right in my hindsight, and I was like, there ain't no way I'm running and gunning through all this stuff. This Texas dirt is a little bit different than what I'm used to. I'll end up with a little bit of pokey going everywhere. I'm good. I'll sit right here where I'm at. So
yeah, you got to stick to the roads and to the main trails.
Yeah, definitely a different theology down there in Texas. But I mean, all in all, it was a fantastic hunt. I can't say enough, and I'm very appreciative that you guys had us down there. I mean, it was a battle to get on a bird, but even the closer encounters that we did have were memories that I'll carry with me for a lifetime. It ain't always about filling your tag, but getting to sit around with everybody at the fire and watching Sam cook a nice meal over top of a fire and kick back with the guys that you feel like you've known forever, even though it was our first time meeting most of y'all. So it was a good camp, all in all.
No, I definitely appreciate you guys making the trek, like I've mentioned, and especially for Kess, you and Drew. For a little bit, Nick probably feels the same way. We were like, man, these guys are crazy for wanting to come all the way down here to hunt a turkey, or try to hunt a turkey, right? But no, I'm glad y'all made the trip, and it definitely made camp pretty awesome. Sorry it was so stinking hot for beginning of April. Like I wish we had the weather from the week before where it was like a high of only 78, 80 degrees and lows in the 50s. That about a 10-degree difference from what we had, it felt like, and that would have been nice. But yeah, we made it work. So that's Texas for you. Todd still has the record for the hottest Texas dirt hunt, so
I want no part.
Well, and he might be onto something. I don't know, because I was gonna mention it and give everybody a little bit of heartache, including myself. But 2 weeks after y'all leave, the pigs start firing up, and now Nick and I pretty much have pigs somewhere every single day right now. So they decided to come back just like that. So yeah, that's, like we've said, that's hunting. But maybe Todd was onto something, and the only time you're going to get a pig is if you brave the 110-degree heat out here. That if you tell that guy to go hunting, he'll go hunting.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
I know Todd's listening to this, so he's probably cracking up at that. But hey guys, thanks for listening to the show. Hope you guys are enjoying it. There's so many different places that you guys can tune in to Fall Obsession Podcast, and one of them is the Outdoor Call radio app. Outdoors Dan from Respect the Game TV, he created an app that you can download on any device where you can stream hunting shows and podcasts on a loop every single day. Our show, Fall Obsession Podcast, plays on that loop on Mondays. That's the same day as our new publications on the other apps. And there's also tons of other hunting shows and podcasts on there that you guys can listen to. Go download the Outdoor Call Radio app today. It is free. You can start streaming immediately. And be sure that you follow their Facebook page, because Outdoors Dan does some live radio shows throughout the week. And even if you are not local to those radio stations, his broadcasts are shared on his Facebook Live. It's Outdoors Dan and the Outdoor Call Radio app. Go download it today. Well, I'll open it up to the group if anybody has any closing stories, remarks, or thoughts from the weekend and everything. I know we're kind of bouncing around talking person to person, and like I mentioned, a larger group on a podcast, and first time navigating that. I will say I wish I could have recorded in person with you guys, like in camp. I know my hope was to record an in camp podcast the second evening once we had a few hunts kind of under our belt, but two things kind of attributed to me not doing that. One, we had already lost Nick and Carter by that point, and then two, the second evening was far windier than the first evening, and that would have made just the production side of things out there in camp a little bit more challenging. So that's what led to us doing this. But yeah, I'll open it up to you guys, and if anybody has anything they want to add before we wrap it up.
Cell cams are torture, man.
Cell cams are torture. That's a fact, man.
Yeah. Having Nick back at home texting everybody, being like, "God, you guys should be at this stand right now."
We're on our day jobs on Monday, and Nick's flicking us photos of turkeys sitting where we were the day before.
Yeah.
Weren't you supposed to be watching your son's baseball game or something, not staring at your phone?
I already did. I already watched that.
Yeah, the turkeys are moving until 2 o'clock.
Nick was at home with his bird. Like, this is what they look like, guys.
In case you were wondering.
Hey,
Yeah.
but you didn't get to see the UFO. So.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Kind of glad.
Yeah,
it was kind of creepy, really. Did we ever determine what was going on with that?
No, we didn't, and that was the weird thing. And now that we bring it up in this podcast, we'll probably have the episode get throttled and get 0 downloads, at this point. But we're in camp on. Was that night 2? I think, or was that night 1?
Must have been night 2 because I wasn't there.
You weren't there? Okay, yeah, then it was the second night. Yeah, we're just, Chad broke out his night vision goggles, and somebody, I think Chad brought up how, you can see the stars, like all the stars you can see when you look at the sky with these things.
All the stars, yeah.
Yeah, and then, well, I'll let y'all talk about it. Like, everybody's been listening to me talk this episode, so I'll let y'all talk about it.
I don't remember what it was. It was something, just being able to see that many stars, and so I got the night vision out because I was like, look how many shooting stars you can see with these. And I don't remember who was looking through it at the time. Maybe Drew or Kess.
I think I just handed it to your son, Sam, and he was looking at it.
Yeah,
and then we were all looking at the same part of the sky because he was trying to look through these night vision goggles.
Yeah, That's what it was.
And it was like, what is that thing? And there was no, like, you could see it with the night vision, but there was no lights on it flying through the air.
And what was interesting is in the night vision, it looked like there was a haze around it, but there wasn't a cloud in the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That it was weird.
And it kind of separated. It started off as one, and I don't know if it broke apart or it separated into 2, or if there was just 2, whatever it was. And we could clearly see them. It almost looked like I just describe it as like a really bright shooting star, or like if you've seen when they launch SpaceX, how when the rocket kind of breaks through the atmosphere, you get like that weird cloud burst.
Yeah.
I described that in reverse, right? So it kind of just like came back in, and all of a sudden it was like this big thing of haze. And then the next thing we knew, we couldn't even find it with the night vision goggles.
It was gone.
It was just gone. It went probably, I'd say about a quarter of the way, a third of the way through the sky, and then it was just gone. It was bright.
Yeah, it was wild because I guess there's like a military base or something where all the jets were flying off, and this thing made 0 sound. Like we wouldn't even have known it was there if we just didn't happen to be looking through the night vision. But there was no sound coming from it, and it was kind of like flying away from us. But then when like all the jets were taking off, obviously they were extremely loud. So it was very, very strange.
Yeah. So if there's any conspiracy theorists or, UFO specialists listening to the show, maybe y'all can tell us what it is.
I know what the first question will be was how much have y'all been drinking?
Yeah, how many in were you? Well, the fact that the youth in camp, my son that was hunting with us, the fact that he saw it first, there's your proof. It wasn't just us.
Yep, and I don't drink, so I'll be the sober testifier on that one. So.
I was the same way. I just had my Topo Chicos. That's all I had. So no, it was.
I'll tell you after that though. I got to get me a pair of those night vision goggles that Chad has.
Oh man,
I got a little bit, and it is nowhere near what he has. I was like, dude, I can see everything. We'd go hunt right now.
Yeah, you should not hunt at night. I'm just gonna throw that out there with a 30-06 at that.
Just try it.
What
no, I'll back up what Kess said. That was my first time actually using any night vision stuff at all, and those were amazing. I was surprised at what you could see. Just no lights on.
Yeah, actually, I killed all of those with it.
have to cut that part out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, have y'all seen that magazine article with Chad Jones on the cover?
Yeah. We'll fill you in on those secrets.
So what brand are those, Chad?
Those are I really don't know the brand, but they're Ambus 9 aviator goggles.
Mm-hmm.
So they're kind of like what military pilots will wear, fighter pilots will wear because of like the refresh rate on them. You can drive it, high speeds or fly at high speeds with them, and there's no distortion in them. So it's a friend of mine that was in the military. He ended up coming across them, getting them for me years ago, and because I've had like the night vision like monoculars, like the cheaper ones, but once you put the goggles on, it was a game changer. And so, but yeah, we used to take the ATVs out and black out everything and just fly on them, and it was pretty awesome. But I had gotten to where a lot of times, kind of like joking around, but when I'd go deer hunting, that's how I would go to my stand. So I wouldn't have to use a flashlight. I would just put my night vision goggles on, and I'd walk in, and that way I could still knock my arrow. I could do everything, because it's like looking through. It's like daytime, just with a green tint to it. Mm-hmm. And so, so I pretty much use those going through, through deer season to get to my stand. And of course, I don't really have to justify anything, because when I'm carrying a bow, it's not like they can say, "Oh, well, you're using night vision shoot," because you obviously can't see the sights with it. So, but yeah, they're pretty awesome.
So Chad was complaining about wandering around for an hour trying to find his spot.
I didn't have my night vision.
He just stuck those things on. I was like, "Oh, that looks good right there."
Yeah, there's the turkeys on the roost. I'll just go shoot them there. I didn't. I actually didn't have them with me. The only time I got them out was when y'all were looking around the campfire. But no, I use them a lot for pig hunting, coyote hunting, because I do have some suppressed rifles that have got a laser on them. So like I don't have to aim. I can just put the laser on them and shoot them, because it's infrared that I can see with the night vision, but not the, not with the naked eye. So, and then I end up getting thermal. I mean, thermal's hard to beat. You kind of have the best of both worlds, but thermal's I don't know. It's probably my favorite of the two. Other than if you get a lot of moisture in the air, gets hard to see. But yeah, it's a lot of pig killing with those setups.
Just not on Texas dirt.
Yeah, just not at your place. So.
Man,
Not this time.
not this time. Yeah.
We'll have to run it back.
Yeah, we'll do it again another time when the pigs are all showing up. That way, when everybody arrives in camp, they can disappear again, and we can hunt something else. So, all right, guys. Well, anybody got anything else for the greater good before we wrap it up?
No, I just want to say thanks again, Sam and Nick, for allowing us the opportunity to get out there and hunt with y'all and spend some time as a group of fall obsessions. So really do appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was going to second that, because you guys, I know how it is, bringing other people to land that you guys manage and work your tails off, and try to manage the herd and set those properties up for success for the leaseholders or the property owners, which in your case, you guys and your dads, so that says a lot to invite guys in to come in and benefit off of things that you guys work y'all's tails off. So man, I'm grateful, appreciate it. Have to return the favor to you.
Well,
yeah, I'd even echo and add in, I was like I mentioned, the shoulder injury thing and getting back to hunting. I was super grateful to have the opportunity to have what I'm going to call one good hunting trip for that year. And so it helped me kind of close off a season that I definitely won't forget. But try not to remember too much.
Yeah. Ups and downs. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, guys, I appreciate all of you guys for accepting the invite and coming out. And like I said, I mean, everybody had to travel to some extent, whether it was just, a couple or a few hours to pretty much a whole day, or catching a plane, all that kind of stuff. So especially you guys that came from a long way, I appreciate all of you for, coming out and, enjoying a little piece of what we have going on down here. And, it's that's why we do it. Like you talk about, Chad, we put a lot of work in, everything like that for sure. But, it in my mind, there's stuff we have to share, right? That's part of hunting, and that's part of the community and everything. And yeah, I for one enjoy doing that. So I'm glad that you guys could come out and experience it with us. It was awesome. So
thank you guys.
Well, with that, we will wrap up this podcast. We made it with all 6 dudes on here, so pretty stoked about that. And we got a new record for the most guys in attendance of a podcast, so that's pretty cool. If we have more than this, it'll have to be in person, though, because this is I don't know how I would do more than this. So, but appreciate you guys taking time out of your evening away from your families to record, recap it, and everything. And for our listeners, thanks for tuning in. Be sure you follow and subscribe to the show if you haven't already. We drop a new episode every Monday. And with that, I will be back with you guys again next week, and we'll catch you then.